She forged my signature, lied about my dad's will, and drained our family's money. But when I uncovered the truth, she vanished without a trace. You know that feeling when something just doesn't sit right, but you can't explain it? That was me after my dad passed away. I was 27, living in a one-bedroom apartment in Columbus, Ohio, barely getting by on my IT support job and trying to keep up with student loans. When Dad died, it hit me hard, but not just emotionally. He'd always been the financially stable one, organized, dependable, and honest to a fault. My mom? Well, let's just say she had a flair for dramatics and a tendency to forget things when it came to money. After the funeral, we sat in the kitchen of my childhood home, just me, my mom, and her sister Aunt Mel, trying to figure out how things were going to look from now on. That's when the first red flag waved. I guess your father didn't leave much. Mom sighed, stirring her coffee like it had personally offended her. Just this old house and a few boxes of junk in the garage. That didn't make sense. My dad had worked 35 years as a high school principal and had always talked about retirement savings. He wasn't flashy, but he was responsible. He had money, at least I thought he did. When I asked about his life insurance, my mom said, there wasn't any. He canceled the policy years ago. That sounded weird. Dad was the type to have backup plans for his backup plans. But I didn't push. Grief can twist people up, and I figured she was just overwhelmed. But then weird stuff started happening. 2 weeks later, I swung by the house to check on her. She wasn't there. Nothing odd about that, until I noticed an Amazon box on the porch with a label showing she'd ordered a $1,200 espresso machine. This woman told me she didn't even have enough to pay for the plumber last week, and now she's buying barista-level equipment. I let it go. Kind of. But then came the second espresso machine. And new curtains. And some organic facial steamer. That cost over $300. I only knew because she asked me to help her set it up, not realizing the price was right on the box. I started quietly keeping track of the stuff showing up. It added up to over $6,000 in a month. That's when I got suspicious enough to start digging. And boy, I had no idea what I was about to find. I didn't have access to my dad's bank records directly, but I remembered he had once mentioned a password he used for most of his accounts. On a long shot, I tried it on his old laptop, which Mom kept in the closet. Boom. It worked. There were folders labeled Insurance, 401k, Will, 2022 Update. My hands were shaking as I opened the will. My name was all over it. Dad had left me the house. Not them, not jointly, me. He had specified that I was to receive the house outright, and $150,000 from his 401k. To help build a solid foundation. So why had Mom told me there was nothing? That night, I confronted her. I brought the will and the printed account summary from the 401k, which still had over $290,000 in it. She didn't even try to deny it. She just froze. Then she laughed. Oh, that old thing? I meant to talk to you about that. You were so stressed, I didn't want to add to it. I was stunned. She tried to make it sound like it was for my own good. That she was going to tell me eventually. But you were spending the money, I said, trying not to yell. On steamers and machines and God knows what else. She rolled her eyes. It's not like I'm wasting it. You'll get your share. It got worse. Turns out, my mom had already cashed out half of the 401k and moved it into a private account under her name. When I asked about the house, she said, I already started the paperwork to transfer the deed into both our names. It'll be easier that way. Except, that directly went against my dad's will. I called a lawyer the next day. What followed was 6 months of legal hell, filled with accusations, guilt-tripping, and family drama so bad that Aunt Mel stopped talking to both of us. But the real twist? I found out my dad did leave a life insurance policy. And my mom forged my signature to cash it out. I didn't even know it was possible to forge a life insurance claim. But somehow, she pulled it off, at least temporarily. The policy was worth $300,000, and I only found out about it because of a letter that got accidentally delivered to my apartment instead of her house. It was from Midstate Life, confirming final processing of the claim and noting that the funds had been wired. The letter was addressed to me. But the bank account it listed wasn't mine. I remember standing in my kitchen, reading that letter over and over like I'd missed something. I called the number on the letter and asked to verify the payout. The rep asked me for my ID, and then said something that made my stomach drop. It looks like the payout has already been completed, sir. About 5 weeks ago. Where was it sent? I can't share that detail without security clearance from the policyholder. I am the beneficiary, I said, my voice shaky. She paused. I'm sorry, sir. It appears we have a signed beneficiary confirmation form that includes a different routing number and digital signature. I froze. A digital signature. One I never gave. I drove straight to my lawyer's office and handed him the letter. He read it twice and gave me that look lawyers give when they know this is going to be expensive. This is criminal, he said. But it's also going to be tricky. We started the legal process immediately, filing for a formal investigation, subpoenaing the account records, the works. Meanwhile, I had to keep playing nice with my mom, pretending I didn't know what she did, or she might try to move more money around. Every conversation with her felt like a trap. She'd text me things like, "Want to go get lunch tomorrow? My treat." Or, "I'm thinking about redoing the kitchen. You think subway tile is out of style?" Subway tile? She was worried about backsplash aesthetics while I was unraveling a full-blown financial betrayal? But it got worse. One afternoon, I stopped by her house to grab some old photo albums my dad had kept in the attic. She wasn't home, but I had a spare key. I figured I'd be in and out in 10 minutes. Instead, I found a box in her bedroom closet, under a pile of scarves. Inside were 3 things that made my blood run cold. A printed email thread between her and some consultant named Brent discussing how to get full control over the estate, and mentioning gray areas of Ohio probate law. A burner phone with only 7 contacts, one labeled Brent Law, and another simply named Cousin Mike. A receipt for a $10,000 wire transfer to a man named Michael Thurman, dated just 2 weeks before my dad's death. I didn't even know a Cousin Mike existed. My mind was racing. Who was Michael Thurman? Why did she wire him 10 grand before Dad died? And what was this gray area legal advice? I didn't confront her that night. Instead, I did some digging. I looked up Michael Thurman in Ohio public records. And there it was. Michael Thurman had been arrested 5 years ago for fraud, specifically estate scams. Now I was officially freaked out. I gave the info to my lawyer, who said we were now looking at a possible conspiracy to defraud an estate, especially if there was any indication she had manipulated my dad or his documents before his death. For the first time, a thought hit me that I wasn't ready to face. What if she hadn't just hidden the money? What if she'd planned it? The next twist came fast. My dad's old coworker, Mr. Hastings, called me after hearing from a mutual friend that things weren't going well with the estate. He invited me out for coffee and brought a manila folder with him. "I don't want to get in the middle," he said, "but your dad asked me to witness this." Inside the folder was a handwritten letter from my dad, dated 3 months before his death. It read, "If something happens to me suddenly, I want you to know I've been suspicious about Gail's behavior. I've noticed her snooping around my financial papers and I changed my passwords. I'm updating my will and insurance instructions separately, and I'll tell Jack when the time is right. Gail. My mother." This wasn't just miscommunication. My dad had sensed it. He just didn't act fast enough. Now I was armed with even more, a witness, a paper trail, and a motive. I called Mom that night and asked her straight up, "Who's Michael Thurman?" She got quiet. Then she hung up. She didn't call back. Not that night, not the next day. Nothing. Then 2 days later, I got a knock on my door. Not a call. A knock. It was her. She stood there like she was coming to borrow sugar, all smiles and fake casual. "Hey, honey. Thought we could talk." I didn't even let her pass the doorway. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked, arms crossed. She sighed, gave me that tired, motherly look she used when I got caught sneaking out as a teenager. "I know you've been poking around. Brent told me you got a lawyer." "You mean Brent the consultant? The one you paid to help you steal my inheritance?" Her face twitched for a split second. Then she smiled again. "You don't understand how complicated these things are. I protected that money. Your father didn't know what he was doing with it. He was going to blow it all on that stupid lake house. He didn't even tell you about the diabetes diagnosis, did he?" I blinked. "What does that have to do with anything?" She waved her hand like she was brushing the question away. "He was making irrational decisions at the end. I had to step in." "You mean you stole it?" She dropped the smile. "You think I'm the villain? I gave up my life for this family. For you. For him. I did what had to be done." That's when I realized she genuinely thought she deserved the money. That it was hers by right. She left soon after, saying something vague like, "Let's try to settle this like adults before we drag each other into court." But it was already too late for peace talks. The investigation was moving forward. The life insurance company had frozen the payout account after reviewing my claim and matching the signature against real documents. They even launched an internal fraud review. But just when I thought I had the upper hand, the next twist hit me like a freight train. Brent, the consultant, wasn't just some legal advisor. He was my half-brother. I only found out because of a slip-up from Aunt Mel. She came over one afternoon with a bag of groceries and a look on her face like she was about to confess to a murder. "I can't keep lying for her," she said. I froze. "Lying about what?" She sat down and took a deep breath. "Your mom had another child when she was 20. Before she met your dad. Gave him up for adoption. She reconnected with him a few years ago, around the time your dad got sick." I just sat there. "That's Brent," she whispered. "She told him he had a right to the family. That your dad never would have accepted him." My stomach turned. She had brought him in, fed him some twisted story about being cut out of the family legacy, and partnered with him to gut the estate. Now everything made more sense. The urgency, the secrecy, the gray area, legal strategies. I called my lawyer and told him everything. He widened the scope of the investigation to include Brent as a co-conspirator. The cherry on top? My lawyer got a court order to freeze the remaining funds in the 401k account, and the motion passed. That stopped her from draining the rest. Temporarily, at least. Then we hit a snag. Mom lawyered up, hard. And her lawyer was no joke. The guy had a reputation for defending high conflict estates, and he immediately filed a motion to dispute the authenticity of the will I had. He claimed it was invalid due to diminished mental capacity and lack of proper witnessing. Classic distraction play. My dad's longtime coworker, Mr. Hastings, agreed to testify that he witnessed my dad updating the documents himself. But Mom's team began pushing back hard. They submitted another will, one I'd never seen before, with her as the sole heir. And the signature? A near-perfect match, except it was dated 2 weeks after Dad had already passed away. I couldn't believe it. They actually forged an entire fake will. But it got even more bizarre. During deposition, Brent admitted, under oath, that he had assisted in preparing the documents, but refused to answer questions about the date, citing the Fifth Amendment. That's when my lawyer smiled. Because pleading the Fifth in a civil case? That's basically code for, I'm guilty, but I'm not gonna say it out loud. We filed for a forensic handwriting analysis. It took weeks, but the result was undeniable. The signature on the new will was not my father's. Game over, right? Not quite. 2 days before our court hearing, my mom disappeared. When I say my mom disappeared, I don't mean she took a little break or went to a spa to clear her head. I mean gone. Phone disconnected, house empty, car missing. No texts. No note. Nothing. At first, I thought it was just another dramatic stunt. Maybe she was trying to delay the court date. But then her lawyer called me. Have you heard from Gail? He asked, sounding genuinely rattled. She missed our meeting this morning. I've tried every number I have. I told him she was off the grid. He let out a long breath and muttered. That's not good. The court date came and went. Since she didn't show, the judge granted temporary control of the estate to me, pending final judgment. That included the frozen funds, the house title, and the life insurance payout once it was restored. I thought maybe she'd vanished for good. Maybe she ran out of options and bolted. But then I got an email, from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line. Just a sentence. I did what I had to do. You'll understand someday. Don't look for me. That was it. I forwarded it to my lawyer, and he flagged it with the fraud department at Midstate Life and the probate court. We pushed to move forward without her, since she'd effectively fled the proceedings. 2 weeks later, I finally got confirmation. The life insurance payout was being reversed and reissued to me. It was one of the most surreal moments of my life. I sat there staring at my bank account, seeing a number I'd never imagined I'd have, $300,000. But I didn't celebrate. Because the fallout was just beginning. First came the messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, cousins, extended relatives, even my mom's old church friends. They had heard her side of the story. She said you pushed her out of her own home. She said your father wanted nothing to do with you. She said you faked documents to cut her off. She painted herself as a victim, again. Some people believed her. Some didn't. But either way, the damage was done. My family was divided like a cracked windshield. But then came the real bombshell. Remember Cousin Mike? The one she wired $10,000 to? Turns out, he didn't just vanish after that. An anonymous tip, possibly Aunt Mel, led the investigators to a string of off-the-books payments she'd been making to him over the last year. Small enough to fly under the radar, but consistent. Always in cash. My lawyer pressed for his subpoena, and when he was brought in for questioning, the truth came out. Mike had been posing as a financial advisor. He'd helped forge documents, coach Brent on how to navigate probate loopholes, and even ghostwrote the fake will. And here's the kicker, Mom had promised to give him 10% of everything once it was all settled. He thought he was just getting some easy money. Instead, he confessed everything in exchange for immunity. That was the final nail in the coffin. The court ruled that Mom had committed multiple counts of fraud, forgery, and misappropriation of estate funds. A warrant was issued for her arrest. But she was still missing. I was left with everything I had fought for, the house, the life insurance, the retirement money. But I felt hollow. I sold the house. Couldn't stand to walk through it anymore without hearing echoes of those cold conversations, without feeling the weight of the lies that happened under that roof. I used some of the money to pay off my loans and put the rest into a trust, one my father would have approved of. Something for the future. Something solid. And just when I thought it was over, a final twist landed in my lap. A woman contacted me through LinkedIn of all places. Her message was short. I think we might be related. I've been looking for my birth mother, and your name came up in court documents. Is your mom's name Gail? I nearly dropped my phone. I told her yes. She was my half-sister. Not Brent's sister, another one. Different dad. Different time. Different life. She'd been looking for our mom for years. Found nothing until she came across Brent's name in a legal database, saw it linked to a probate case, and followed the trail straight to me. I called her. She was nothing like Mom. Smart. Warm. Direct. She said she'd been adopted into a great family but always wanted to understand where she came from. When I told her everything that had happened, she got quiet. Then she said, "I guess I dodged a bullet." We met in person a few weeks later. It felt like the beginning of something better. Like maybe all this chaos had cleared a path for something more honest. As for Mom, she's still out there. Somewhere. The last confirmed sighting was a credit card charge in Arizona. Then nothing. The warrant is still active. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about what she did, if she regrets it. Or if she's just out there starting fresh under a different name, lying to a new set of people. But I've learned to stop looking back. Because when someone shows you who they are, especially when it costs you everything, you believe them the first time. It's been almost a year since all of it happened. Sometimes I still catch myself expecting a knock at the door, half thinking my mom will show up like she did that day, smiling like none of it ever happened. But she never does. And I'm finally okay with that. After the dust settled, I made some big changes. I quit my job. Not out of spite, or because I hated it, but because I didn't need to hang on to something that barely paid my bills and slowly drained my energy. I took some time off, traveled a little, nothing flashy, mostly national parks, cheap motels, and a lot of quiet. I started therapy too. That part one don't say lightly. There's something about realizing your own mother would rather lie, steal, and manipulate her way through life than build something honest with you. It messes with your head. It makes you question your worth. Makes you wonder if love ever meant anything to them, or if it was just a tool. But therapy helped me unpack all that. I stopped thinking of myself as a victim and started seeing myself as someone who survived something. Someone who pulled the truth out from under a pile of lies and didn't back down when it got ugly. My relationship with my half-sister, Rachel, grew fast. We talk almost every day now. She actually flew out for my birthday a few months ago, and it was the first time in years I felt like I had real family again. We're wildly different, but we share something unshakable now. She told me she confronted her adoptive parents about why they never told her anything. Turns out, they didn't know. Gail had used a fake name when she gave Rachel up. That part still stings, how methodical Mom was about hiding her past, like she was erasing every mistake instead of owning any of it. Rachel took it better than I would have. She just shrugged and said, "Her loss." As for Brent, the half-brother I didn't ask for, he pled guilty in exchange for a lighter sentence. He's doing a few years for his role in the fraud. I didn't show up to his sentencing. Couldn't stomach it. The guy never showed an ounce of remorse. He tried to reach out once through his lawyer, offered to apologize. I declined. Some doors don't need to be reopened. My mom still has an active warrant. There's a case file open, but no new leads. Last I heard, she might have crossed into Mexico, maybe even further south. The trail's cold, and I've stopped checking for updates. The weird thing is, even with her gone, her presence still lingers. Not in a ghostly way. More like a reminder. Every time I sit down to balance my finances or write up a budget, I hear my dad's voice. Calm. Reassuring. Telling me that structure leads to freedom. That truth matters more than comfort. And every time I get tempted to splurge just because I can, I see my mom's face and remember the espresso machines. The fraud. The denial. I remember how quickly people can lose their compass when money gets involved. So I keep things simple. I bought a small house just outside of Cincinnati, nothing fancy, just cozy and mine. I work part-time for a nonprofit now, teaching financial literacy to high school students. It's something I wish someone had done for me when I was younger, before all this. And the rest of the money? It's locked away. Invested smart. Building something for the future. Maybe a family of my own one day. I don't tell many people this story. Too personal. Too twisted. But every now and then, I'll meet someone going through something similar, someone whose family turned toxic when money got involved. And I tell them the same thing my therapist told me. Just because they're family doesn't mean they get a free pass. Families should be built on love, trust, and respect, not guilt, control, and manipulation. And if someone betrays that, mother, father, sibling, whoever, they have no right to your loyalty. You get to choose your peace. And that's what I did. I chose peace.